Welcome to What Sold, the channel where we just show you what we've sold. Everything you're going to see today is from eBay. It's 3 different stores of ours, but it's all sold in the last 2 weeks. I'm going to tell you where we got it, what we paid for it, how long it took to sell, and you're going to see how much it sold for. And if we have any interesting information to tell you about it, we will. This whole channel is devoted to other resellers, whether you're part-time, full-time, or even people who are just investigating or interested in it and are thinking about getting into it. Maybe some of these tips can help you. And also, if you have advice for us, please feel free to leave it in the comments. Without further ado, let's get right into it. We have these shoes. Now I got a package of like a little bagged lot of maybe 20 different pairs of small vintage doll shoes. Most of them were leather. A lot of them were hand stitched, interesting buttons and things on them. This is a very small pair. Now I put these on an auction. Let me try to pull these up here. You can see, I mean, they're cute. Had a little bit of information with some of them. You know, I did not sell these for a ton of money. It was only $5, but $5.40 with shipping. Shipping on this is probably going to cost me only like $3.80, something like that. So we've got, you know, I'm going to make $7 or $8, and I got 20 of these. I've already sold 3 or 4 of them. I think I only paid $10 for the whole package, and so that was really easy. I don't mind taking a lower cost on that because I've got others that I'm going to be making the money on as well. The next one up here is some tortoiseshell eyeglasses. Now, these glasses, I'll pull them up here so you can see them. They it's tortoiseshell looking, but they're actually made of Bakelite, which is like a vintage old plastic. And you can test that by using something called semi-chrome polish. It's pink in the beginning, but whenever you wipe it on there, it should turn orangish yellow, and that's how you know it's Bakelite. That stuff in jewelry and stuff can sell for really good money. Oftentimes it's just mixed in with other costume jewelry, but it carries higher values than just regular newer plastics. These were old. They got that kind of that round John Lennon, you know, sort of look. $50 for these, and you can find these places for anywhere from, you know, I find them for $8, $10 here or there, sometimes cheaper than that, and they can sometimes sell for much more than $50. So that's definitely something to look for. Sometimes they have gold filled, like there's actual gold content in the construction of them, and sometimes people will buy them for the gold alone. Here's a list, a lot of costume jewelry. I had a ton of it. This is a bunch of stuff. Some of it, a lot of it was actually signed not by the maker, but it just said West Germany on it. And so it's vintage jewelry. Earrings, you can see this lot here. Nothing super special or fantastic about it, except that people do collect stuff, this West Germany stuff. Some of these might have been more valuable individually, but sometimes I do these lots just to kind of move the inventory because I come through jewelry all the time. If you have the time for it, if you think it's worth the price, then sell them individually. Stuff by certain brands, makers, it is worth my time to make individual listings and sell those. This one wasn't. $20, had 7 bids. This was something I picked up at a thrift store for $3. It was a pocket watch, kind of like a pocket watch, but it's like on a pendant. It's a pendant set up as a pendant on a necklace. There's a chain there. Really cool look. This center portion here was cut and etched a certain way that when you wind it, it rotates slowly, and so it catches the light and makes a really cool look as it's working. So it's what they would call an automatic. It doesn't take a battery. You wind it up and then it keeps the time. This particular one was kind of, I guess I'd say rare, because you don't see, not that you don't see ones by Ernest Burrell very often, because there are other ones for sale, but this specific model, you don't see a whole lot. Paid $3 for this, again, turned around and sold it for $50. Then you have this, again, this is not the kind of thing I sell all that often. I don't really like to sell ceramics or glassware or tableware all that much, but if I can make some decent money. This I didn't buy individually for that exact reason, but it came in a large lot of antiques that I bought. I actually had it for quite a while, though it's a really kind of cool looking piece. It's just jet black. It looks like onyx, you know, but it's etched around with this kind of floral sort of pattern. It's nice. This would be the kind of thing that if a person, say, has an entire set, they're missing this, or maybe theirs got broken, they like to buy an individual piece, or maybe they just wanted it on its own. There's sites that operate specifically on the idea of replacing items that in these old sets, like there's one called replacements.com, for example, that let's say you have a whole setting for 8 or 10 people with like cups and saucers and side plates and dinner plates and such, and you're missing one, or one got broken. You can go on there and sometimes find it. They're not cheap. Always. You're going to pay a little bit higher price for an individual piece, but if you need it to complete a set, you can do that. Here's another set of glasses, and this is an example of one. This is probably older than the first one, but it definitely has the lenses in it, and it is gold filled. So it's got a little bit more information. You've got the dust cloth there. You can kind of see that cool Art Deco sort of design, but definitely some corrosion around the nose pieces there. But you can see it says Shuron, S-H-U-R-O-N. I find Shuron stuff a lot. I find Bausch & Lomb or B&L brands a lot, but it says 1/10 12 karat GF, gold filled. So it's gold filled. People use these for a variety of reasons. Sometimes they do craft stuff with it, sometimes they repair them, and sometimes people just like to collect them. And so I love items where you've got several different collectors or buyers for different reasons. One person wants to buy it for the gold, another person buys it for crafting, another person buys it just as a collector for that specific piece. So you do really well when you can find items where you don't have just one set of buyers, but maybe you have 4 or 5 sets of buyers, and that definitely increases your chance of selling it, and for selling it at a higher price. This is a utility knife, like a box knife essentially, but it's by a pretty well-known collected brand of vintage tools, Stanley. So Stanley, Craftsman, Snap-on, and there are others like Proto, Plum. If you're into vintage tools, you'll know those names, but depending on the actual item, sometimes they're less common. Just a regular wrench or a socket by Stanley might be more common than this. There were actually, as I did research, a lot of different types of box knives. This was interesting because it had sort of a smaller blade, a little bit of a different size. And you can see on the bottom here, as I go through the pictures, on the blade itself, it has a model number. It says Stanley. And then on the bottom, it says Stanley and it has a number. That's really great for reference. So if you're researching something, you just plug in those numbers. It's not that much different than, say, if you're buying a pair of Nike shoes. It'll say the date in the tag inside or underneath of the tongue. It'll say a certain number, like a 6-digit number or something, maybe an alphanumeric number, and you can identify what it is. This cost me 50 cents. I sold it for $14. These things you can pick up at yard sales and thrift stores pretty much all the time. This one, this lens that I'm going to show you right now is a Pentax lens. It's vintage. Lenses and cameras can be a little bit tricky. Sometimes you come across something super valuable, collectible, but most of the time you're looking at brands that are Japanese brands, sort of lesser known brands, but a lot of times they will fit Nikon or some of these Pentax. They're made specifically for one, or you can get an adapter and then you can use the same lens on a different camera body. This one I got with a lot of other, I bought a lot. I think I paid $50 for a lot of maybe 6 or 8 cameras and various other lenses and hoods and different stuff. And so $20 for this, and they're paying for the shipping. I'm happy with that because this one sale gets me 40 to 50%, about 40% of my money back on that whole lot. I'm actually already in the profit on this lot, so it was easy for me to take this. I kind of had it a little bit higher. I lowered it a little bit over time, which I do if things don't sell. The next item here is Hooked on Phonics. You may know this from back in the 80s and 90s. This was like a program for people to learn how to read. And this, you can see, it was quite extensive. You got all of these booklets that go along with it. You've got and these cassette tapes. Now, obviously, this technology here is a little bit outdated because unless you're like me, driving around in like a 90s Chevy S10, but all it has is a tape deck, you're probably not using tapes all that much. But whoever this was has the ability to use this, or maybe it's just a collector's item. I don't know. But this came in, I bought a bunch of stuff from a thrift store that was in the back. And in 2 weeks' time, I was in profit off of all that stuff, and that was about 8 months ago. So everything I'm selling now from this is just profit. I like to buy larger lots. I didn't have the funds to do this when I started this type of work, to just buy large lots. But as I've saved money over time and gotten into profit on stuff, now I look for larger lots of items, because I can just divide the amount I've spent on the from the number. I could divide into the number of items themselves that I bought, and when you do that, then you're in at $1 or less per item, then your likelihood of making profit is much higher. You're not hoping and worrying that this one thing that you bought will sell and making your money back. You're sort of leveraging multiple items, multiple types of buyers, and the chances that you'll make your money back go up dramatically. So one bid, I had it as a buy it now for a long time. It didn't sell, so I thought, you know what, I want to move it, put it up. One bid, but that's okay, $40. I shipped that out just yesterday. This one also sold this last week, and I shipped it yesterday. It is a vintage guitar strap. Now, they're very cool. I own 2 or 3. In fact, let me see here. I own a couple myself. Here's an example of one, and this is by a brand called Ace. And you can see right here, it has this little emblem with, it says, I don't know if it's going to zoom in on that or not. Anyhow, Ace, it's woven. I like this design. This design actually happens to be one of the more valuable ones, but this was a type of guitar strap that was worn by a lot of the 70s rockers. Jimi Hendrix is known to use these. This particular one that I sold is not an Ace brand, but it's clearly made and woven exactly the same way. It's made to look like it, but it is probably a knockoff brand. It's still vintage. It's still in really good condition, stitched there on the leather on the backside. It's not cracked or anything. I originally put this up for $80 just because I didn't know. The one that I just showed you, this one, regularly sells for over $100. I've seen them sell as high as $200 for just a guitar strap. So when I saw this at a thrift store for $2, I thought, I know it's not an Ace brand, but I know I'll get some good money off of it. 7 bids, clearly interest, $45. This was cool. This is basically a fireplace cover slash, I don't know if this is actually to be set in the very back of the fireplace or if it's actually just a cover on the front. I put cover, but you can see that there's holes in the top and the bottom that you can use to screw it into place. And so this may actually be a back cover, but it is a vintage piece. It's cast iron with like a type of black paint that's made from metals to withstand extreme heats. And it's just this really cool molded piece. You can see the back here, it has numbers, which I'm sure correspond to the mold itself or maybe the time period it was made. That's just a manufacturer's internal number for their use. Took me a while to sell this. I had a lot of interest locally. No one bought it. This came with the antique store buyout I got. I'd seen these sell for as much as $250, but I got $180 out of this. As a buy it now with $60 shipping, but I think the shipping actually ended up only costing me $30 to $40. I had to use a special type of box because it's quite big and heavy. It's about 24 pounds. Again, it's cast iron, but somebody will be happy with that. I hope that this looks really good in their fireplace, but it's a super cool look, unique item. I've never come across one like this before. This is an antique letter from 1918. It was sent from, or it was postmarked from, it was like kind of through the YMCA, involved with soldiers. This is a soldier in World War II sending this back to the United States to Maryland. It looks like Roland Park, Maryland. It's just a correspondence between a soldier and a family member, and it has a letter inside. It's dated December 3rd, 1918. So this is World War I we're talking about, and just a really cool piece of history. I really like paper ephemera. This came in a lot of 20 or 30 similar letters. Most of them were from the same person. Some of them were different. The reason that this has value, again, talking about an item that has multiple collectors, not unlike people who collect postcards, there's several different things about the item that a person might want it for. So somebody might want this because of the letter itself and the message inside. Somebody might want it because they're connected to the family or something that this was written to, or the person who wrote it. The actual envelope that has the postmark and the cancellation on the postage, people buy things like postcards for that reason as well. There can be value in that, or even the stamp itself. But for whatever the reason was, this person paid $20 for this, and they paid for shipping. And again, I bought this whole lot, I think for $10, and this one item sold for double what I paid for the whole lot. I've sold, I think, 8 others from this lot, and so it's been a really good profit. Other things that I buy in the sort of same genre would be like scrapbooks from the Victorian era. Let's see, man, there's a lot of them. Old ledgers from people who did administrative work. Old clubs would take record of who attended the club and like what things were discussed and voted on. Teachers had these ledger books for their grading. Stuff like other academic or educational pieces, marriage licenses, banknotes. I mean, the list goes on, but I have bought and sold all of these items for decent money, because oftentimes people don't think that they have a whole lot of value, but there are actually a lot of collectors out there for that kind of stuff. Moving on, we've got this piece of ceramic here. This is like a Japanese-made bowl. It's got this really beautiful blue glaze and kind of like pattern here on the top. You can see this interesting kind of copper stain. So on the bottom of ceramics, a lot of times you'll see in the firing around this bottom rim, if it's really old, around the edge you'll see kind of this dark kind of rust color, and that's like I think that's the iron staining from inside, like whenever they're cooking it. You've got this the stamp on the actual piece itself, and that information would indicate manufacturer, maybe place that it was made. This was a newer piece, obviously, because it has a sticker, so it's not all that old, and so probably a person just bought it because they think it's beautiful, or they have a use. Sometimes people will reuse these. They'll put plants in them. Maybe it just goes on a bookshelf. Either way, I bought this for $3 at a local thrift store. It took about 2 months. Sold it for $20 plus $14 shipping, and I think it costs a little bit less than that actually to ship. You can see my photo here. This came from the antique store buyout, and I took this photo as I was unloading stuff from the U-Haul truck to put it in a storage unit. You can see there's a storage unit behind it. I was like, why wait to transport it? I'm going to go ahead and photograph it. I can get these listed. This was just like a small holder for a candle, and a candle, I shipped the candle with it. Kind of this iron look, small. It's shaped like a crown, sort of at the top. Kind of neat. I hadn't seen one before. It stood about 3 feet tall, and you can put a candle in it. $40 with $40 shipping, so $80 on this item. This is not something I would have bought individually, but that's sort of how the business goes. If I see a good deal on a lot of items, obviously I wouldn't go through, if I were to look at every item, I would probably pass on 3/4 of the items if it was buying them individually. But if I find some items I know I'm going to be able to make some good money on, make the money back quickly, then I'll deal with the hassle of finding odd-sized boxes or the packaging of these other items, because that's what I do. I buy and sell things. So $40, I was pretty happy with that. I would have preferred to sell that locally so somebody could have come to me, and I wouldn't have had to mess with the shipping, but that's how it goes sometimes. This is just a little lot of Thomas the Train. If you go to thrift stores, you'll probably see these pretty frequently, and depending on what they're made out of, wood or metal, you can see this is a lot that's all metal, and they have magnets in the front so they can all connect to one another on the track. These are vintage pieces. You can see some right. This one in the middle has some deterioration of the paint that goes over the metal. But some people like to repaint these and restore them. Some people buy these just for their kids to play with. Some people buy them because they're trying to, say, complete a set, and these have some that they don't have. But I bought a large lot. I had probably 120 different Thomas the Train engines and various accessories from different eras. And I split them up into smaller lots like this, anywhere from individual pieces all the way up to, this one had 16. I think this is the largest lot I sold. And so they got a good deal. If I had sold these individually, I could have probably got at a minimum $4 to $5 a piece for them. But again, I'm just trying to move it, open up space for the next things that are coming in. $20. $5 shipping. Shipping actually probably cost closer to $7 or $8 based on the weight. So they got a little back on that, but that's all right. And then here are some interesting, pieces that I sometimes come across. I got these at a pretty good deal. I think I paid $3 just for the bundle. So it's $1 a piece. And they're just carved out of wood. Probably African would be my guess. But they've been carved and then lightly stained, some of these to make them look a little bit darker. You can see they've been used. Just interesting pieces. That small one was really cool. But $28 off of this for $14 shipping. I don't know what the shipping actually cost, but they were happy with that, and so was I. This is the most recent gold lot, scrap gold, wearable gold lot that I've sold. I do this periodically. If the piece is interesting enough that I think someone would buy over the spot weight on it, I'll sell it individually. If not, in order to just move it quickly and get my money back, I'll often sell it in here. So one of the tricks is you can sell things like gold and silver as scrap weight, and you can sell it in the category of jewelry, but oftentimes I'll actually go to the category that says coins, what is it, coins and something else. And then if you go into that further, you can get to where it says like bullion and then scrap or recovered gold. And the reason that I'll sell it in that category is that the buyer, since I know I'm targeting a buyer who's buying scrap, there are fewer taxes for them in buying it than there would be if they bought it in the category of jewelry. So that's like that was told to me by somebody who buys here. So, and they one time asked me like, hey, I want to buy this and I'll buy it at this price provided you delist it and then relist it in this category, because they save money on taxes. I don't mind that. So that's what I do now. That's the categories I put it in if I'm targeting a scrap buyer. But this was 14 karat gold and 10 karat gold mixed. I give the various weights, 5 plus grams of 14 karat gold, and then the thin necklace was 10 karat. So there you have it. I put the weight in there too. It was upside down. That was dumb. I should have flipped that photo. But anyhow, $220 out the door. And these were two things that I found locally for like $3 or $5 a piece because they didn't see the markings of gold. So it's solid gold, quote unquote solid gold, 14 and 10 karat purities. Those are great paydays when I can find gold jewelry that a person doesn't see the stamp or the mark on it. I have a pretty good idea that my ring that I have, it weighs about almost 8 grams, and it's 18 karat gold. And I check the gold prices each day if I'm looking for jewelry. And so since I don't carry a scale with me, I'll take this in one hand, I'll put it in the other, and I'll get a general idea of the weight of it. And then I'll do my best guess. I'll do the calculation in my head. But I don't even have to do that. If I'm buying it for $3 or $5, it's really easy to know that I'm going to make some good profit off of it. This is a cool piece. It's like an old vintage blowtorch made out of brass here. You can see some rust on some of the components, but this came in my antique store lot. I've already made money on that lot. $20, $14 there on the shipping, and so that was fine. I wasn't terribly excited about it, but hey, I'm showing you the stuff I'm not excited about as well as things I am, because every little dollar helps the business. This came in also with the thrift store, and I've never come across one. This is like a regulator. It's a component, a part for an old vehicle for a 53 to 54 Corvette. Now, you know that these old Corvettes, like, they're not making these components anymore. And so, and if they do, you're going to pay top dollar for it. So if you can find an original vintage component, which still works, then it's worth it, especially if you can get it for just 20 bucks. And so that's not too much of a risk for them to get it and see if it works. If it doesn't work, they'll just send it back to me. You know, this sold a little while back in July. Let's see. Well, no, it sold in June. So we'll see. I mean, they've got 30 days. If they want to send it back to me, I'll take it back. But $20, $12 shipping, it's fine. Talk about a niche market. Like, there are very few people who are out for that particular piece. So for that reason alone, unless it was highly in demand, I probably wouldn't have bought it. But again, it came with a large lot. Now this is cool. I did buy this. I think I paid $8 for this lamp at a local thrift store. It's a Tiffany style, the lampshade itself, and even this ornate looking base. It's not terribly old. It was probably made in the 60s or the 70s. But it does have actual glass of the lampshade there. Stained glass. But it's just pretty colors, and it's an attractive looking thing. It's also very small, so it's easy to go on like a little side table by a bed in a bedroom, or even next to a couch or something. So I, put it up there, $40 with $16 shipping, $8 purchase. Took me about 4 weeks to sell. So anything I can sell in 30 days. A lot of times people will tell you if you can sell it in less than, some people say 90 days, some people say 60 days on eBay, then they're saying you're doing a good job. So if I buy something and it sells in the first auction cycle, or if I put it up, buy it now and it sells in the first couple of weeks, I'm really happy. If you put something up, buy it now, and it sells that day or that week, you probably had it priced too low. Just unless if you're happy with the price, then that's great. But there are times, and it still happens to me, even though I try to do my research, where I'll put something up and in 2 hours it sells, and I think, oh, why? Why didn't I clearly did not have that priced correctly? Because otherwise they would have sent me an offer, or it would not have sold so fast. But that's the deal. It's kind of a game. You sort of know the rules, you sort of don't. Sort of flying by the seat of your pants. I mean, I am a full-time reseller. I do 6-figure sales on eBay, so I do know what I'm talking about sometimes, but it doesn't mean I know all the answers. I'm still learning stuff, and I am still surprised. And also, the markets change. I mean, this is not a static world. Like, this is a fluid thing. I have to be watching and making adjustments myself. And so that's part of what's interesting about it, is that I'm learning things and I have to make changes. And sometimes those changes are for the better, sometimes not. But I'm trying to learn all the time. Last up here we have this this gold necklace. It was broken, so the clasp on both sides were broken off. It couldn't be latched together. I have the tools to repair this, but I didn't want to spend the time, frankly, because I didn't think that the additional money I'd make if it was functional would compensate me for the time it would take to do it. And that's another calculation I've got to make sometimes. So I went ahead and just did this at scrap. Again, 3.49 grams of 18 karat gold, and here you go. It's $160. They were quite happy with this. I was happy with it because I bought it in like a lot of mixed scrap costume jewelry. And so most of it was costume. But because I have the ability to test for gold, the clasp would normally be the place that it would be marked for the gold content. Since that wasn't gone, the person selling it to me didn't know it was made of gold, likely. So I tested it, found out it's gold. I took a $20 purchase of a bunch of costume jewelry, which, frankly, I thought I could sell that and make money on if it was all just costume. Turned out that there was this piece of gold in it. Awesome. Made some really good money. It was a calculated risk, but then I'm also going to make money on the rest of the costume pieces, even though I'm well into the profit at this point. That is all I've got for you today, folks. This is all stuff that sold in the last 2 weeks. I've been on a couple of long vacations, 2-week long vacations the month of June. I've been gone a lot, which is tough for a reseller because if you're not working, you're not making money, really. But anyways, I was happy that these things sold anyways. I'm back at it this week, so by next week's video, I hope to have a bunch more. In fact, I've had 3 things. I've already done $400 in sales today, and it's noon. So I've already got 4 or 5 things to put on next week's video. Hopefully with the other work I do, I'll have other cool stuff, and we'll hit you then. I hope this helps a little bit. If you have comments or thoughts, I welcome those. And if you haven't checked out the latest video on the Rusty the Reseller channel, our kind of brother channel, it is my brother, Rusty, who does that. So go check that out. And I hope you guys have, today is Independence Day, 4th of July. So may you have a great, restful, peaceful, and a safe time with you and your loved ones. And we'll catch you guys soon.